Welcome back, everybody, to another episode, number 77 of the What's Really Going On podcast. Before we get into it, as always, be sure to check out our website at what'sreallygoingonpod.com, especially our stuff. If you search that website up /shop, you can get merch that is always on sale. You can catch us out on Instagram and Twitter at WRGO Pod. Subscribe on YouTube where you can watch this video and all of our others in full. Also, be sure to like, listen, subscribe, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, and now iHeartRadio. Of course, I'm joined by Mackenzie and Henry. How are you guys?
I'm
Oh,
good. I'm good.
what's
Nice
up? What's
fall
up?
weather
Wait,
outside
you
this
should
day.
also say check out our article and
I'll let you promote it.
Voyage ATL.
I would say shout out to the interviewer, but I don't really know. I cannot remember her name. So shout out
Yeah,
to.
no, shout out to Voyage Atlanta for highlighting our podcast. Check it out. Link is in our bios. You can find it on our website. But yeah, it just gives you a little bit more background about what we are about, what we're doing in the community, and who we've been interviewing, who we plan to interview in the next few months. So yeah, check it out.
That is a crisp answer. All right, here we go. So now to start off, we're going to get into some elections talk. We'll start off with Virginia, which is the first kind of statewide big election since Biden's victory last year. There's been a lot of kind of different stuff happening with the election, and I think it's interesting because it could be telling of how people think about both parties and Biden's agenda. Have you all kind of been, and we'll transition this to the Atlanta conversation, but like has your kind of paying attention of elections changed since kind of Biden got in? Because I know I personally have been like, oh yeah, we got Biden, da 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 da, we're good. But like, how do y'all feel? Have y'all been paying attention to more like election stuff, or have y'all not? Or
I was waiting on McKinsey answer, but me and my friend actually had like a conversation kind of like this in terms of like the I guess visibility or transparency of the White House right now. You know how like every day it was always like chaotic. We heard about Donald Trump, he's doing something new, whatever. But like now it just be like dead silence. It's like cricket sometimes. So I guess to like answer your direct question, it's back to what it was for me. Like I'll see stuff on social media. If I care about it, I pay attention to it. If not, it's just like whatever. I have been kind of trying to pay attention to like local elections because I recently like relocated back home, and with that, like you always hear noise about Atlanta mayor, but like not the surrounding suburban county mayors. And like me and my mom was talking, I was like, I stay in da da da. Do they have their own mayor? So I had to like go search that stuff up. So yeah, it's like that for me. It's more casual than I guess pressing while Trump was like he was in office.
I will say that I haven't really been paying that close of attention because I guess the election is over. And I feel like after elections, a lot of times things do kind of die off just because elections itself, I feel like create a lot of hype. But I do feel like, the focus has just been a little bit more on his infrastructure bill, which to be honest, I think it'll create a lot of jobs and, do what it's supposed to do. But I don't think that that's what the focus people are on right now. I feel like Haiti has never been directly discussed head on. I feel like we've never really discussed that from him himself. His last speech was on his infrastructure bill. And the only time that I feel like they've addressed it was through his press secretary, and they try to brush it under the rug. So I didn't really appreciate that. And like Henry said, I feel like, they came in with this whole idea of transparency and at least giving us information and being honest with us. And I just don't feel like that they've held their end of that, even though I understand that they're politicians and people don't really, I guess, assume that they're going to drop the ball. But transparency is something that they really, really, I feel like prided themselves on. And I don't feel like they've been holding their end of their point or whatever.
yeah, and I think the interesting thing is like I think with both of you all, what I can like sense is that there seems to be like this disconnect, not only from like Biden, but like in like these other campaigns. Because I can think of like, of course, like we're all virtual because of COVID, but like there are all of these other pressing things that are happening that I think politicians are not talking about. Like, of course, like in the Virginia governor's races, like an example, their main conversation was like infrastructure and like COVID and like how are you going to navigate these things, which like, okay, that's like understandable because you have to have an answer of how you're going to try to deal with COVID and do all these different things. But like they didn't really talk about like housing, which is like in big cities really important because people still don't really have money to pay their rents, or like student loans. What's going to happen when, I think, when's the moratorium end? Like later this year or early next? Like people aren't going to be
Yeah.
able to pay that. Like,
And even with the stabilizing rent, like I also feel like things like that, that they're not addressing that head on. It'll just be like a short extension, but nothing to really solve the problem. That I feel like this point, what are we, like 2 years in at this point? And I feel like no one's like addressing that this is going to be our lifestyle. This is going to take more than a few more months to really get rid of. And it's just kind of like, okay, maybe 2 more months or maybe 3 more months. We can just extend it a little bit, but it needs to be something once again addressed head on and fundamentally, like something needs to change because I don't think we're gonna be done with COVID for years to come for real.
like after 2 months, people still aren't going to be able to pay their rent, even if you have a
Yeah.
2 month extension. Like that's not, I don't know, Henry. Like, what do you think? I mean, you have.
Well, I was about to jump in, but I didn't want to cut nobody off. I was about to say, excuse me, that I think that's, for me at least, the not issue, and I can't think of another word right now, but like COVID impacted like people's health, people's pockets. It impacted the infrastructure of America, like, so I don't want to say again harshly, but it changed a lot of stuff. And like Mackenzie said, it's that stuff is not going to change for years to come. So like I think for me at least, like what you guys are saying, like job security, housing, like some type of housing programs, because a lot of people still are struggling to pay bills or like on their last dime. So like, and this will probably go into the conversation we're having later, but like it's easier to get like a little, whatever minimum wage job, but to like get an actual like corporate job is hard because like the network and all of that behind it. So like I think it's a lot of stuff happening and it's affecting a lot of people in different ways. But I definitely think the government could like step up and do more because it, like, again, we've all said this multiple times, like it's no real like support, or if it is some support, it's like lackluster.
What I will say before, like people try to say, like we did mention the infrastructure bill before, but I feel like things that I've seen that he's focused on in the infrastructure bill, because I know a lot of the points that we've said, I feel like rent stabilization, student loans, that would naturally to me be included in the infrastructure bill. But I feel like things that I've seen him really pride himself on is like, eco-friendly stuff, stuff to like that will create jobs, but more of a traditional root of it, like creating like, so I don't want just so I'm just putting
Yeah.
that out there because I feel like people who could easily say, well, that's what the infrastructure bill is going to do, it's going to create these jobs for the
But they,
future,
like
rah,
you
rah,
just
rah.
said, that's like the traditional
Yeah, but
thing
I
about it.
still
'Cause
don't feel like that's
they always come up with some program that creates jobs and then miraculously it somehow doesn't, but does. Like it's like a weird shift. And even then, the jobs that are created are, subpar pay, and people are still like struggling to meet ends meet. So it's like kind of, that's like a conversation within itself.
Yeah.
Um,
Even like to like expand on what you were saying, Henry, like how that actually trickles down. Like, of course, like someone's getting like a minimum wage check off that, but some person who's probably largely white and male is getting some type of profit that we really don't even know because they're the ones who are getting those contracts or doing this or doing that. So I think to your point, and I guess that was probably a really good transition into our next conversation about kind of just working while black. Because I think one thing that I think of before we kind of really get into it is that there's still really not like a support system or kind of an area for black people to really get jobs, to what Henry was saying. So Henry, I'll let you kind of tee that up because you were the one who kind of brought it to our attention.
well, I mean, we've all talked about it in different ways. I think it started when Mackenzie mentioned the Bloomberg article and that like survey they did, but like working while black and then working from home while black. Those are like two different conversations because a study But yeah, Bloomberg recently has shown that like basically job like race relations have like been better for Black people while working from home. And we've kind of discussed this, but today we want to kind of like delve into it deeply and how it realistically affects us on like all accords, from like actually getting jobs, holding these jobs, um, and so on and so forth. So like for me, I'll say like one is, as a Black person working in America, you deal with all these like micro like aggressions all the time. You have to put on a smile and chipper up a little bit, and not like, I speak monotone most times. So like most people would think like, dang, this person is dry or angry or whatever. So you have to like, put inflation on your voice. So like for me, I've definitely had to, I guess do this like professionalism thing. But I guess I always think it's funny because like my white voice, I think I'm using it now. But it's not really a white voice, right? So like for me, I've never really like had to code switch as much. Well, like it's difficult for me to explain or understand. That's what I'm trying to say. So like while like working from home, it is kind of cool that, you can kind of like just not even have to think about it or like put that stress on yourself, and like the workday is easier. Or even on the flip side of that, looking for a job, that's when you have to put on this face front again of, this code switch and being professional and enunciating your words and smiling all the time and making sure you're sitting up right and all of this or whatever, just to attempt to get a job and get past through the, interview process and maybe not get a call back because of whatever reason. So I think like all of us probably have had different experiences. That was just kind of like my perspective. I definitely would like to hear you guys chime in.
Mackenzie, please.
I guess I'll speak from the perspective of like I've been interviewing a lot through the pandemic. And I do think that like what Henry said, when you're interviewing as a Black person, I do feel like in person, you're thinking about your voice, your how you're presenting yourself. And I do feel like interviewing virtually has, I won't say a hindrance. I don't know if everything would have worked out the same way it would have if it was in person, but I do feel like there's a little bit more pressure on me because I guess I feel like I do have a more monotone voice. I feel like my voice is a little bit lower. So because they can't see my movements, my hand movements, or see what I look like in person, I feel like I have to do a little bit more with my voice because that's really all they can,
No,
that's all
not
they can
this
really
voice
get from
like
me.
this the whole time.
Well, not like that, but I just feel like I have to be a little bit more peppy because they can't see my face, my hands. They can't see like how I'm presenting
Body
myself,
language.
my
Harder.
body language.
Yeah, it's harder.
So it's really only this that they're seeing for me. And if I like deflect my voice one word or maybe look, I don't know. It's just all of those things are going through my head because I do feel like I am at a, I mean, I don't want to say hindrance because who knows? Maybe it's just something that Black
Disadvantage.
people think about in our heads that nobody else is really considering. But I do go through those thoughts when I was interviewing. But as far as going in the office and not dealing with I feel like it won't just be microaggressions. It's just a little fake small talk or just the just fakeness. I feel like that goes into going to work. Like, what did you do this weekend? I'm not really cool with you. And you just gotta do this fake conversation. And I feel like a lot of Black people.
Okay, can I play devil's advocate to
Go
like,
ahead.
I guess the personable side? Because for me, I was very personable with like the people I work with. Like I didn't tell them about like too much, but we were cool. Like it was casual cool. So like just devil's advocate here, like why is that an annoyance to be personable with your
But then, and this is where I'll jump in because I think and Mackenzie, jump in if I'm probably misinterpreting what I think you're saying, is that there's a difference between where, as Black people, and like I've dealt with this all the time, like where I'm cool with you, but that doesn't mean that I'm actively going to, or I don't have the freedom to take the steps to be as free that as you are, as that I can be, because you can tell me all about the movies you saw and the things that you did this weekend, but with Black people, we have a kind of a guide of like, I did this weekend. Do I want to tell them that for fear that they're not going to know what I'm talking about and then going to judge me from just the simple fact that they don't know that Mackenzie went to Afropunk and they're not going to know what that is. Whereas someone could say, I went to some white festival that we either A, know of, because that's what happens when you're a minority in this country, you know somehow everything, or you just say, oh, okay. And like, that's just what they're doing. Not, they did something I'm unfamiliar with. So then let me like give them a look. It's like the small things of like, you can't honestly open up yourself. So you have to pick and choose your spots of when do I give a piece of myself, knowing that even when I do, they're not going to understand where I'm coming from. So there's just a natural, like, it's an awkwardness where it's
Yeah,
like
it's that.
awkwardness.
And low key, yeah, Afro punk and my little hood rat stories too. Like, how far can
Yeah.
and not even to be on that, but you really can't joke. Like, you, like a white coworker can tell you that they did some crazy mess that weekend, some crazy X-rated stuff. I can't tell them that I did an X-rated situation and be super comfortable that they not gonna tell so and so or misinterpret. And that's actually happened. Like, I've come to work and I've seen someone kind of overshare, and I saw the white woman kind of misinterpret, like casually joking, like, me and my friend, we got into a fight this week, we was fighting, like, but I got the joke. Like, I don't think they was really fighting, but you could see on her head she actually thought that they was brawling on the street. And I hate to be like that, but it's those type of things. It's those little things that could have been a little joke that I've told over the weekend, and now it's blown out of a proportion. So then that's when I tell our coworkers, nothing. I didn't do anything this weekend.
Right. Yeah, no,
No.
like
I get what y'all saying for sure, 100%. Like, because even for me, like, even though, like I've said, like I'm cool with, like, you know, but I ask more questions about their life than
I don't care.
they know about me.
I mean,
But I think that's a part of it, though.
no, Henry, but then I think on the flips, and I think it's like, I think everything plays into something where I think like I can ask them questions about their life, and most likely I know more information about them, their kids, but do people really ask me about my life?
There you go. There you go. That's what I
No,
was getting to.
no.
That's what I
Like,
was getting to. And I'm not offended, though. I appreciate my privacy.
I wouldn't say that I'm not offended, but I think that that then goes into what I think, and this
What
is
we're
like
talking about.
right, and this is where I'll plug my article that I wrote, where I basically talked about how like going back to work in person is like basically anti-black for all of these things, where it's not, we can sit here and act like this space is welcoming to us when there's only one other black person there. It's not. Like, there's no one in leadership. There's oftentimes the other people, and at least in my current job, the only other black people I'm seeing are assistants and secretaries. And that has an impact when you don't see people who look like you, when there's no track to see someone ascend, when all your black people on your staff are leaving, and when the black people are just replacing each other, and there's not an active just saying, we found a talented person and we brought them in, not, oh, we had someone who led our black outreach, so we need to hire another black person to leave our black, like, that's what happens here. And like, I think trying to sugarcoat it to be like, we make the best out of this shit scenario because we have to, and we get paid less, and Mackenzie gets paid less than everybody else for no other reason but because she's a black woman. And I think that's like, it's just not an accepting space. So being virtual allows me, and I'm sure you too, Henry and Mackenzie, like, it allows us the time to actually like not have to worry about these performative things, where in my free time I can do whatever I want instead of trying to force a conversation that's just like, you're not understanding me, you're not going
Now,
to
you
try to.
said something that hit the nail on the head for me, because I read something, but point, it was like, why are all the people that are interviewing me white? And it's like that hit the nail on the head for me, because like most of these leadership positions, or again, higher ups or executives, they're of another race, and you never see like black faces. So for me, you just said something like that, again, hit the nail on the head, because I think that's a problem within itself. Like before COVID, and then now I think it's going to be even worse, because of like the nepotism within the companies, of how like you got to know somebody in the company to get on within the company. So like they're only gonna keep hiring the same type of faces. They're not gonna, like you said, bring someone in new who is just like naturally talented and skilled at, you know, what this HR position, or has the, like, you know, experience or whatever.
And then to even expand on that point, I think the reason why we're not being considered is, and I think this all goes to like the whole aspects of like conversations with white coworkers on a daily, like, white coworkers most likely do not consider us their friends. They don't consider us someone that they can say, hey, I just have a position open, or I know someone who has a position. Let me see if Mackenzie's interested in that. They just see us as, oh, they're just.
Can I play devil's advocate again?
I honestly don't think you can, because I think that's
It
just.
depends on the YT person.
I think it depends. I think in the whole, and Mackenzie jump in here, I think in the whole, there's a reason why we're not in leadership positions, and there's a reason why we're not that, is because white people are not looking out at their network, and they don't have a black face in front of them.
Okay, so I think I heard what you said in two different ways, because like I agree, they keep us at a certain level. So yeah, if this white cohort of mine or peer of mine knows about a job opportunity, I've had a few of them reach out and tell me about them, or even give me contracts. So that's why I was like, if they see you at this certain level, for sure. But let's say like that, I don't know, big executive position or director position, are they necessarily going to tell me about it? I don't know.
But what I'm saying is that I think that that then understates that there are not black people at every level, and they just don't know them. I think it's like a different thing of like, there are tons of black editors, and tons of black freelancers, but is the New York Times or the Washington Post, do they know those people as they know every other white person, even though they're not as talented? No, because they don't actually establish these connections with black people. I think that's the point that I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I would agree with the leadership roles, because I just feel like the higher up you go, the smaller the circle is. So I just don't feel like they do. I mean, yes, I think white people, like on our levels, like if you have a good white coworker friend, maybe they'll send you a job here. But when you start getting up to the higher, the CEOs, the CFOs, like the executive suites, I do feel like that is a lack of. Because when white people try to look for people of color, they try to act like we're unicorns, and it's like we're just these few. There's so few black people who are on their stuff, and it's ridiculous. Like it's so ridiculous.
That's ridiculous, especially when they have all these quotas and stuff they have to make.
Yeah, but then that tells me that you are not tapped in, because we aren't unicorns. There's so many,
bro. And I guess for us is, we all went to Howard, so it's like very different for us, I think, because everybody around us was eager and determined, and still to this day have proven success, to where they're either grinding to get to that big opportunity, or they're at that big opportunity, like doing some make or break stuff. So like with that, I'll just say like, I feel like, to kind of double down on what you just said, excuse me, is like, we're not qualified. We don't lack the experience.
we lack the opportunity.
Facts.
Viola Davis.
Well, no, I was about to say, because Issa Rae just did this, like, it was an interview where she was talking about how like some of the awkward conversations she's having with HBO right now, or she's had with HBO, to where like she's able to produce and put on like authentic, genuine black content, and not some forced like, so I appreciate that we are. And it's weird because like we do see again like people like Issa, or not even in the realm of like entertainment, we have people wherever breaking records and doing like extremely like cool things, but on the flip side of that, how many of us are getting exposed to those opportunities to even break more records? Because I swear I'd be tired of seeing the first black so and so. It's like, bro, we hit 2021.
Yeah, I mean, and like that's, I think, the thing that I'm tired of, and I think I've dealt with a lot, is where companies can always kind of not juice the stats, but they can be honest and say, oh, we're a diverse company. It's like, yeah, because you got all of them in the warehouse, like you got all them shipping boxes. You don't have any of them in marketing. You don't have any of them in field operations, technical operations. You just have all of them stocking stuff. Like, yeah, so you do technically have 35% people of color. It just happens that 95% of that number are hourly employees. You don't, and I think
or contract employees,
right? And I think that reflects on companies, and I think more companies need to be called out of like, hey, your C-suite is or not even your C-suite, your VP and above level. Let's say if you're a big company like Pepsi, how many of those people are Black? How many of those people are women? How many of those people are Black women?
Yeah.
And they need to be taken to task for that. Like companies, especially that serve our community, why are you not having your head of marketing be a Black person when they're talking only to us? Why is your
That's
head
what be pissing me off.
why is your head of communications not talking to us? Why is your head of technical, stuff not connecting, doing this, this, and this? And I think that needs to be more of a conversation that people need to force directly on these companies, because they can do all this whole corporate social responsibility. But one, if you're not taking care of your Black employees, and if you're not actively seeking ways to bring more Black and brown employees in, it's all
Yeah.
pointless. It's really all pointless. Speaking of something that's pointless, we'll now talk about Biden's HBCU plan. News first broke. Shout out to Mackenzie for plugging this up. Biden's HBCU plan just dropped. He was talking hot stuff at first. An expansive plan that was for $45 billion. It now reportedly is at somewhere around $2 billion.
I think you.
Were you gonna say, Mackenzie?
I think you. Oh, you went out on my end. Oh,
Yeah, you went down for a second. I was like, you said now it's 2 billion, and then it got silent. I was like, well, that's the perfect thing, because that's ridiculous to have such an extensive amount, and then now you shorten it, that is trimming out, especially when you have the audacity to say, if you ain't Black, you're not Black if you don't vote for me, or whatever he said when he came on the fire.
Shoot, we should have had that clip to roll, honestly, because I can't believe it. Honestly, Kamala where's the transparency on this? Kamala, and I would actually want to hear from Kamala at this point, because you definitely rode on the coattails of HBC. That was your thing, girl.
Ilya, she was at the HU game talking about.
I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to look up the story now, of the reasoning on why. I'm sure some great, wonderful reason.
This audio is getting choppy.
But yeah, what do you think, Henry, about the HBCUs?
But yeah, like I said earlier, I think it's like weird that it went. I also second about this, simply because she went to HBCU. She's definitely going to go to HBCU. And like, you're just a Black woman. So like, it's just questions for me. I personally don't understand. I didn't really read into it, because I was just like, oh, they're doing what they do. They promise something and don't really like follow through with what they promised with, because we still waiting on these student loans. But yeah, that's kind of my thing.
My only thing is, where's Kamala? Because I ain't seen her in a minute. But
and we demand answers. But in the same breath, and I was having this conversation earlier today, it hurts my soul, it does. Howard has also, as many of y'all know, are a Howard alum. Howard has also gotten a lot of money, and the money definitely needs to be put to good use. So I hate to say it, but cut funding to Howard at this point, because I don't know where the money's going to, because they looking real crazy up there, for real.
Ain't it going to Frederick? Didn't a report come out?
Yeah, exactly. He's the highest paid president in DC. That's a problem. That's a problem.
And the funny thing is, I don't have it like, that's fine. Like, that's honestly fine, because Howard is a great institution. It just isn't. It's a bad look when the president's doing all this, and like there are just other issues that have persisted, and like, okay, cool, Frederick. Like, you a med school student. You apparently a teacher at the med school. You do surgeries on the weekends, because we heard that 1,000 times. But like, there are a lot of bandos at Howard that need to be.
But that's my problem. You can't be making all this bread glowing on TV every chance you get, but your school looking like crazy every single day.
Y'all seen the videos? Somebody in the towers, the pipe busted, floodwater, mold.
Stop it.
And I'm no another thing, because everybody's like trying to hush, no, don't talk about no. Because a lot of this stuff been happening behind closed doors for too long. And I'm sinking.
And
at
funny
this
enough,
point.
that's probably a problem with Howard, is I think we're like so protective that oftentimes we try to like shade
Yeah.
stuff where it's like, no, we need to like talk about it. Like
Yeah.
Howard don't offer people scholarships. Howard don't do this. Like, I love my school, but like they got problems.
Tighten up.
So on that note, I guess we'll talk about the Super Bowl. I'll let I don't have that much of a strong opinion about it, but Mackenzie, I'll let you kind of.
I mean, why not? Because you're gonna be the one watching it. Me and Mackenzie.
I will be the one.
I mean, you definitely about to watch the Super Bowl.
I don't even watch. I don't
even
even listen. Let me clarify right now, right here.
Excuse me.
Before Colin Kaepernick, the last time I paid attention.
I'm not talking about you gonna watch the sports and no, but you
I'm about to say even halftime show, like when Beyonce performed that time, I didn't watch it. I had to like go on YouTube or something to watch it. The last time
you was one of the cool kids that's too cool to watch the halftime performance.
I don't like sports for one. Two, I haven't sat down and watched a Super Bowl game since like high school. So Henry not watching that. Two, I'm on Noah head because he's Mr. College and still be watching goddamn football regularly. And you talking about you ain't gonna tune in, but stop lying.
We're all flawed. We're all flawed people. Okay. God's working on all of us.
I had to pull out my Atlanta accent for you.
Okay, but for the people, the lineup, if you have not heard, is Dr. Dre, Kendrick Lamar, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, Snoop Dogg. Now, Dr. Dre obviously is problematic.
Yeah.
Outside of Dr. Dre,
why he dropped the problematic?
He hits women
for a long time.
Yeah, and he looked crazy. But anyways, everybody after that, Mary J. Blige is about to be on the Super. That's a moment. Like her career.
When Mackenzie told me this, she said, "I guess Jay-Z's doing his job."
I mean, I guess this is what the kids are calling protesting from within.
Oh.
I guess this is protesting from within. Whatever.
I just feel like I hate Eminem and Dr. Dre. So that's my
but also like nice
Kendrick,
song for the halftime because this is something I feel like we would never see during the Super Bowl performance. However, this is a wacky group of people. Also, like, what even is this?
What you mean a wacky group?
Snoop Dogg, Mary J, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Kendrick, like at least before, like they had J-Lo, Shakira.
Well, no, this is the thing. I was about to say Eminem white because I was about to say they don't have a authentic like a other performer, but he's white, so but he's a rapper, so it's like so like what I was about to say, I think is one, all of these people, they're directly marketing to a Black older audience.
Yeah, they are. Well, the state, it's gonna be in California, so Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Kendrick Lamar makes sense to rep the LA local.
Right, and then Dr. Dre and Eminem work closely together.
And then Eminem brought along, and then Mary J is just I'm really standing Mary J. Blige right now.
She's just like a Black woman, so it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And again, they're marketing directly to the Black people overall, because like the nostalgia of these names are gonna pull in, you know, the younger crowd and the people who are struggling on the fence to watch. But they're definitely gonna tap back into that the older market who has been like swaying back and forth. Oh, I'm not watching, or I'm gonna just watch my team games or whatever. Everybody about to tune in. They probably gonna hit not record, but they're gonna be back up in numbers and stuff, you know.
But we just have to talk. This is still not enough, even though we over here fangirling. This is not enough. What are y'all actually doing for the community? Maybe, but I will say,
they make some new rule changes before I put my foot in my mouth. Players, Noah?
Huh?
You said
no. They ain't do nothing new that I knew of.
Before, I will say before I put my foot, I will say maybe they will be doing some type of partnership. Some little, you know how they do like little outside volunteer whatever program.
We'll build a community garden in Compton the day of.
Yeah, something like that.
Get out of here.
So maybe that's coming, but that's the lineup. Watch if you don't. I mean, if you don't even, it's not even a matter if you're not gonna watch because you're definitely gonna see the
You're gonna
clips
watch.
online.
Yeah,
So you're gonna see them.
you're gonna watch. It's just
I'm just curious to see how they're really gonna come together as one, or if they're not gonna come together as one, because that really is a random group of
I
people.
think it's gonna be very mismatched. I don't know how you merge.
Yeah, it's
I don't know how
literally
you think-
giving mixed match.
Bro, it's really not like Dr. Dre.
But most of the
Eminem,
acts during the Super Bowl
Snoop.
definitely come together at some point. Like
That's what this kid made. Snoop and Dr. Dre got songs together for sure. Snoop
Yeah,
and
Eminem.
Kendrick have worked
I mean,
together for sure.
yeah.
Eminem and Dr. Dre have worked together. The only like random person is Mary J. But again, I'm pretty sure Mary J has worked with them at some point in her career. Even if so, it's Mary J. Blige. She
I
can
just
go out
wanna see-
there and
I'm just
start
here for
singing
Mary J.
goddamn on
I'm just here
anything.
for Mary J. Blige.
It sounds like a lot of Dr. Dre, which I don't really want to have.
Ugh.
I mean, he might, I don't want to say headline, but he might be the one to
I think
like,
he's the one connecting everybody together.
yeah, the connecting dot.
I've never been there.
Mm. Yeah. So that's February 13th, 2022. See you there, I guess.
Yeah.
I
We'll
mean,
talk about it, I suppose. We got this Facebook thing. Do we really want to talk about this?
I mean, it's not really anything that we could talk about outside of like, don't rely on social media to like build your businesses. That's what I would just say.
Or
If
rather,
you
I
need
will
help scaling. Contact me. That's what I would say toward that.
I will then pose a question because this is something that I've thought about, and then we can end it here. But is it social media's responsibility to curb the speech of people? Because I think that's one thing that I've been thinking a lot about, where I think that yes, naturally Facebook is getting hit with issues because they are amplifying misinformation and stuff like that. But is Facebook the main person to blame? I think they're a very big person to blame, but I don't know how we fix that. I think stopping Facebook is not the only way to solve that. If someone's going to share,
I'm not understanding. Are you basically asking should they censor certain content?
I mean, it does come down to censoring essentially.
I think it comes down to censoring. Yeah, basically.
It does, because it's a very thin line, because it's like, who's to at the end of the day say something is wrong?
Yeah.
But
Where
that's when they have all these stupid like.
The only thing that they should be held accountable for is like really amplifying stuff that they know is wrong, because then
which they have.
which they have, and that's a problem. But like, and there's something else that I noticed that's like, I just very suspicious as well, that the whistleblower thing happened. And if you don't know, anybody want to give the spiel?
Basically, a whistleblower on their team basically said what we just talked about, is that Facebook searches, their algorithm has like a built-in model of accounting for people who are spreading hate or misinformation because they know it makes them more money and generates more ad revenue. So they have a preference to share that content and give those, kind of content users special features to then end up making them more money, versus Henry can tweet something or post something and it's just another thing in the ether. But if someone who says that, I don't even really know, like COVID gave them some disease that it's not at all linked to, they're going to then elevate that post and share it among more people because they know it's just going to keep people engaged on the app, which makes them more money. That's basically what.
So knowing that, and with that said, and I've seen people post stuff about Haiti that was going on, like, and they were getting flagged saying that information was false. And it was just kind of like, knowing that you're amplifying things that are false and then maybe flagging things that are truthful. I don't know. It just gets really complicated. But to answer your question, I think they should be held accountable to some extent. But as far as censoring people, I don't know. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you really truly do that. And at least in a democracy.
Guidelines they have to meet. I can't think of it. I was so quiet. I was sitting here trying to think of the
but it just gets so tricky.
Yeah, it's almost like, I think you would have to, or what I would want is they would have to obviously be like a certified hate group, or they would have to meet some type of threshold of they're openly spreading harmful information. But then someone could ask the question, okay, well, who determines what's harmful? And even like, of course, there's, for us as Black people and people who are all of the same age and like-minded experience, there's things that we would say, hey, this is objectively wrong, but someone would say, is it? And then what happens after that, I don't know. So I think that's why I'm asking the questions, like, can that even be curbed, or is this just something that with social media companies where like this is the downside, and I'm kind of more just thinking like this is just kind of this is what it is. Like, what's to stop someone from sharing something that's not true?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you can
Like, how can they
share
should, yeah.
unless it's flagged or something.
I think that is true. Or I think they just need to put more resources behind
Well,
figuring.
that's the thing. They're not concerned. It's a business at the end of the day.
I agree. But I think that's when maybe the regulation comes in. But then what that looks like, to Mackenzie's point, I don't necessarily know. It's a harder question to answer. And on that note, this has been episode number 77. Thank you, Henry and Mackenzie, for joining us as always. Be sure to check out our website at what'sreallygoingon.com or what'sreallygoingonpod.com. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, and iHeartRadio, where we just got announced. Be sure to subscribe and like and comment on YouTube, where you can watch this video and all of our videos in full, including Mackenzie's new 3x3 black and white. But you have to only look at YouTube to see. And be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WRGO Pod. Thanks, guys.